And hello and welcome. My name is Martin, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be causing a condition that makes the character destroy itself. But before it destroys itself, it's going to play a death animation. So let's look at the example that I have here on the floor with my working character. Okay, so we see that the character is now dead. It's going to wait about 5 seconds, and they're going to blink out. Alright, so let's go ahead and do this, but to the Murdoch character that we've been working on. So let's go back to our A enemies folder. Let's find the Murdoch character, grab a copy of their BP or their blueprint, and put it out on the floor. Once it's there, let's go ahead and double click on it. And what we're going to want to do is we don't want to mess with this capsule too much and start trying to get everything attached to it. What we're actually going to do is create another capsule, and we're going to attach the death condition to that capsule, right? So let's go ahead and hit add component. Let's type in death capsule. Oh, you know what? I can't type in death capsule. I actually have to type in capsule collision. There we go. Okay, here we're going to call it a death capsule or death cap. Okay, and if we select it, we'll see where it is, and what essentially we want to do is go ahead and put this out and make it larger than the other capsule that is surrounding the character, so that it envelops the entire character. So let's grab it from here. Let's grab and let's do something like that. Let me move it down just a little bit, and that's probably good enough. Okay, so now that we have the capsule there, the next thing that we need to do is make sure that the capsule itself isn't going to, that it is going to block the projectiles and not interact with anything else. So what we'll need to do is click on preset, collision presets, go into custom. We'll go ahead and enable everything underneath collision enabled. We need to we'll leave this as a world dynamic. That should be okay. We're going to say ignore everything except for projectiles. Okay, so we now have a capsule that is labeled as a world dynamic that is ignoring everything except for projectiles. And okay, so that should be it for that part of it. The next part, we're going to have to go into the event graph. So let's go into the event graph, and inside the event graph we are going to create the code that we need. So with the death capsule selected, we're going to right click and create an event for it. So we'll right click, add event, add collision, and we need a component hit. So add component, and we're doing this on the hit, not on an overlap, right? Because the overlap would need the capsule to actually penetrate. Here we're as soon as it touches it, that's when we want it to affect. Okay, so we now have an on component hit. We're going to click and drag this out and type in cast to first person, and we want projectile. Remember that every projectile has its own name, right? Remember that as we created new characters and new enemies, we renamed the projectile for that enemy, and this is partly why. Because now, if this character shoots at the wall, let's say, and one of their projectiles comes back and hits them, they're not going to auto die. Whereas my projectiles will be the only thing that will be able to hit them. So let's connect that to other actor. And from here, we're going to say play animation. So play animation. And we need this to be play animation mesh. Okay. Now what this is going to do is it's going to play the animation to the mesh. And remember that the mesh for the characters, the skeleton and where the skeleton and all that stuff is. So if we scroll back up to the top, there's the skeletal mesh. So that's what we're saying is we're saying when you play this to the skeletal mesh. From there, we're going to need to put a destroy component. Okay, and what we're going to do with this is, and the reason why we're putting this one in here is because if the death capsule is what's actually causing the the animation to play. So if you kept shooting at the character, eventually what would happen would be that the character would just keep going into the death animation, and it would keep interacting. So by destroying this first before it moves on to the next piece, you're only able to shoot the character once to cause them to die. So now we're going to go from this to a play sound on location. So play sound at location, and and the sound that we're going to be now. Okay, so the reason why we're adding this is so then that way when the character gets shot, they actually react by making a sound. So this is the Murdoch character. So let me type in here Murdoch. Okay. I don't think that's how they're spelling this guy's name. I'm actually going to type in death first, and then I'm going to scroll down and find the Murdoch death. Okay, now the thing about the deaths is that the ones at the very top, these are actually like if this person had killed somebody else, and so these are cuts of dialogue that are made for that. Now you do have another set of these that are called effort deaths, and those are the ones that are going to sound like the character itself is the one that's dying, right? Like they've taken a bullet, as opposed to them looming over somebody and saying, "Ha ha ha! Now you're done," right? The location that we want this to take place is is the actor itself. So what we'll need to do is get actor location. So right click, type in get actor location. We'll connect that to the location. So this is where the sound's going to happen, and we'll tie that into the first person. So, oh, not that. I'm sorry, let's not do that. I thought that was the first. Let's actually do this. You know what? We can do it that way. Um, we'll test this and see if that works. If not, we'll try to pick another target. Whoops. Let's connect that back. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a deal like this so that it drops down and we get a nice little bridge. All right, so we're going to get the actor's location, which is going to be, in this case, it's going to be where the projectile is. So when the projectile hits this cap, it's going to cast where the first person location was for that projectile as the location where the sound is going to play. All right. We've got the Murdoch effort death sound in there, and now the next thing that we need to do is type in detach from controller. Okay. From pending, okay, so detach from controller pending destroy. And the reason why you want to do this is because what's going to end up happening is if you don't destroy, let's say, the play sound and all this other stuff, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be left over. So what it's going to do is it's going to detach the controller from the player, so then that way the player, there's no way that they can move or do anything at this point. They will be done moving around. Okay. And then from there, the last part of this is going to be causing a delay. Okay, well, this is where we're going to say you're going to wait for 5 seconds before you disappear. And then we're going to say destroy actor. There we go. And the destroy, for both of these are going to be self. And you know what? That's actually what we could do with this one too. We're going to go ahead and delete that one. Let's say break that, and we're going to put self in there as well. Okay, and destroy actor self. Okay, so let's look at that again. So let's see what we're saying. When the death capsule is hit by a first-person projectile, play the animation death. We don't want it to loop, so don't make it loop. Oh, you know what? We never picked the animation. So let's go in here and let's pick the, that's why it's good to go over these things. So let's go ahead and type in death. Okay, and then we're going to see if we can't find one that is specifically for our player. Boom, let's try that one and see what happens. Okay. Alright, so once we've got the animation that it's going to play, we're going to destroy the component, which is the death capsule, so that animation can't be re-triggered again. From there, we're going to play at that location, at the Murdoch location, or where the self is for that. We're going to play the Murdoch effort death, which is the sound, and then from there, we're going to destroy all components that are associated with the AI. Wait 5 seconds and then destroy the actor itself. Okay, so then that way nothing can control this. It'll just be on the ground like in its last pose. Okay, so let's hit compile and save, and let's see if this works. Okay, as soon as he stopped bouncing around, where'd he go? Oh, okay, there he is. Okay, so everything went just about according to plan. The only problem was the animation didn't work. So we saw the characters stop moving. They were no longer being controlled by the AI. They did indeed freeze and stop moving and then disappeared 5 seconds after we hit them. So the only thing we really need to do now is go find an animation, a death animation that's going to work for the Murdoch character. So from here, let's go back to this, and let's again type in death, and let's just try doing death 1, see what happens. Now, if this doesn't end up working out, I'm going to go back to there. And actually, the other thing I'm going to do too is because this guy was bouncing around a whole lot. Let's put them out on the floor over here. Let's put ourselves out on the floor over there. Well outside of any space, and then we can just see what happens. Okay, so let's go ahead and push play, and let's see if this animation is better than the one previous. Okay, nope, did not work. So let's go and find the animations for the Murdoch character. So we're going to go to content, we're going to scroll down until we find the Paragon characters. You should have one for whatever character you're working with. If you double click on that and go into characters, and I believe it's going to Heroes, Murdoch. There are the animations, and in here you can type in death, and you can see that there is a death forward and a death backwards. And you can see the path for it, which is game, Paragon, Murdoch character, heroes, Murdoch animation. So that's what we're going to look for in the death that we have for the other one. So let's go back to enemies, Paragon character, Marduk BP, not in the sound but here. And we're going to type in death. And we know that it's going to be an underscore forward. So there's only 3 options now. If I hold over this one, it says Durker. This one says Marduk. And this one says some other character. So guess what? This is the Marduk forward animation. So that's the one that I'm going to select. Okay, so now that that's there, let's hit compile. Let's hit save. Okay, so now let's see if we get the correct animation to play. Okay, we shot them. They fell on the ground. And they are indeed disappearing 5 seconds afterwards. Now, the other thing that we can also do, because there is another place that we have created a death situation for people, right? So we do have these spikes. So maybe one of the things that we do with the spikes, if we can get the trigger box selected. Okay, so this is the trigger box. We had in last time in our blueprints gone into level blueprints and created this upon actor overlapping, cast to the Murdoch character, cause them to destroy, delay, and then respawn. Instead of all that, maybe what we can do is we can look at the animation that we have created from this, and we can say maybe starting from about the play animation part. Let's copy that. Okay, now that we have this copied, we can go over to the first person map, to the map that we're working in, and starting at about right here, we're going to want to make the break. So I'm going to break those two right there. We're going to pull that back, and what we're going to say now is on actor begin overlap, send it to the sequence, send it to the Marduk character. Move this piece out of the way for now. And actually, we're probably not going to need it because we have that piece of it back here. Okay, so now what we're reading is on actor begin overlap, the sequence, cast to the Murdoch BP. We're going to then play this animation, which is the death animation. So because this is no longer in the piece of code, and we are going to have to make a couple of changes like the self, the mesh, all of these are going to have to be reflexive back to the first person, to the Murdoch character. So I'm going to actually pull that back out a little bit. And what I'll have to do is delete this one right here because that doesn't really exist anymore. It doesn't have the mesh here to be able to do that. So what we'll have to do is pull from that like this, and then we will get the target as the mesh, and now it will actually play the death scene. So the same thing would happen with the death capsule. It no longer is able to see the capsule or the individual components inside, so what we're going to do is connect that directly to the target. Okay, I'm going to drag that down just a little bit, and I'm going to put an extra point in there just to go like that. All right. Okay, so now that we have that, we have the Murdoch character giving us the root for the root component, which is then going to destroy. Oh, also this component right here, we don't really need that anymore. And actually that means we probably are not going to need that. What we are going to need now, remember that the reason why we had that component there was so then that way if the person or if the Murdoch character got shot again by a projectile, it wouldn't recause the animation to play. But what we're going to do here is, since the character is going to drop into the pit with the spikes, we essentially don't need the character. The character is not going to be shot again. It's going to be, inside the pit. So we don't need that animation anymore. So we are going to need to get rid of this self, because remember that's reflective back to the character, and the character is no longer, the character's pieces are no longer available up here. So we will go from the animation to the play location. For the sound is okay. We now have where the sound is going to play, which is going to be close to the Murdoch character. The next thing again here is going to be the detached. If you don't do this, he's going to end up looking like a flopped out fish. So you will want to go ahead and connect this, let's say, back to here. And remember that if I'm connecting it to there, I'm essentially connecting it to here. So I'm going to drop this and go like that, maybe. Maybe we'll do something like that so you know it's coming off this way. All right, so then the duration is fine. Okay. So the other thing that's also going to happen is that if you don't create a delay between the play, between when the animation starts and when you detach the controller, the character will pause wherever it starts going into whenever these conditions start to happen, whenever it starts to play the animation. So instead of falling through the spikes, they're going to land and stay on top of the spikes. So what I do is I actually add an extra delay here. Okay, it doesn't really need to be a long one. Let's say anywhere from a 0.5 to a 1 second delay would probably be more than enough. Then we are going to detach any movement from the character after that, so they'll flop around while they're going. I guess, you know, that seems gruesome, but they will still be able to move a little bit as they're going down for that 1 second on the spikes, and then once this happens they won't be able to move anymore. Then we're going to delay this. If we already waited 1 second there, let's go ahead and make this, instead of 5 seconds, 4 seconds. Then we'll destroy the actor. Remember that again, the actor's self can't be self. So let's connect that to here. And actually that's a fun way of doing it. Let's do it like that. There you go. Kind of looks like a blue backbone now. All right, anyways. So it's going to destroy the actor. It's going to wait. Okay. Once the actor disappears. Okay, so we have all the AI being detached from the character here. Then it's going to wait 4 seconds while it's still visible. Then it's going to destroy itself, meaning it's going to pop out. You're not going to be able to see it anymore. It's going to wait then 5 seconds before it respawns the exact same character, the Murdoch BP, at the locations that we set up last time. Okay, so with all that, we should be able to hit compile and save and test this and see if it works. Okay, so I've already set up a character up there. We're going to, and the player character down here. So when I push play, we should be able to see him fall and see what's going to happen when he hits the spikes. Okay, so you see that he did indeed go into the death animation. He hit the spikes. He disappeared. Let's see if he's going to respawn over here. There he is. Okay, so that's the death animation, both you know, being hit by a projectile and also being some kind of like environmental damage that causes death. So instead of it being spikes, it could be a laser wall. It could be you know, anything really, anything that you could think of, like a force field, or you know, any an object that drops on them. Who knows? So we can shoot at them and cause them to die, and we can make them fall on things and cause them to die. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.